Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about my visit at ESSA saltworks in Mexico, the largest solar saltworks in the world, with a capacity of about 8 million tons of salt per annum. I spent some 10 years with SUVs, together with Condoroshes and other people, my colleagues and friends. I spent 20 years with Credit Suisse, designing buildings and starting up and operating chlorine plants, and another 25 years in doing all kinds of things with solar salt and solar salt purification. Now, for the caustic chlorine, the purity of the salt is very important, and also it is the price of the salt, because caustic chlorine, what you need is electricity and salt and water. So the salt has to be cheap, but at the same time it has to have a very high quality, because if not, then you spend a lot of money on brine purification chemicals. So when we are offering a salt purification plant, we have to guarantee the performance. Quantity, sure, but also the quality. So we have developed a test for what can we obtain with a specific salt on purity, and during that time we have collected some 10,000 salt samples, tested them for the upgradability, and we found that they are very different. And we were asking salt producers, well, why is it that some salt is so pure, so good, and some is not upgradable? You can't do anything with it. Breaks up and so on. And they say, well, you know, it's the sun, and it's the wind, and it's the soil, and well, it just happens. Well, until about 2005, when we met Professor Davis, and he explained, well, the biology in the brine of the solar saltworks is very important. If the biology works well, then the salt is good. If the biology does not work well, then the salt is not very good. So that is the motivation. And since I have been taught by Professor Davis and by other people what the biology is, I've been sort of looking for a way how to prove it. One of the most regarded biologists in this field is Mr. Aaron, Professor Aaron Oren, and he told me, we did together a presentation in Beijing, and he told me, you know, Vladimir, I've been looking at the brine all my life, but I never looked at the salt. So last year in Abu Dhabi, when I met Lucia at my master class, I asked her, well, could I, she is chief operating officer at ESSA in Mexico, and I know that the Mexican salt is very good. Could I come and could I take samples and you know, get some data and to sort of substantiate this claim that good biological management makes good salt? Because that has never been done before. So we went there. This is the location of the ESSA saltworks in Baja California, and we drove to the pumping station. Now you can see the lagoon from which they draw the brine. On the right-hand side, there's a lot of life there. This eagle, they have a number of communities there of the eagles. This mother is not very happy of being filmed. Then we came to the pumping station. It draws pre-concentrated seawater from the lagoon with the pumps, with diesel-driven pumps, and discharges this brine to the first evaporation pond. So here you can see that the seawater is fantastic. It's blue, green, turquoise, and that's how it flows. It's lighter than the brine in the ponds, and it flows on the surface and it evaporates. Then this is the difference between the standard seawater and the water that is being pumped into the saltworks. This is the comparison of the standard seawater and the lagoon seawater. It's already about 4.2, 4.3% pre-concentrated with salts. Now, after the concentration in the pond number 6, the brine already is significantly more concentrated and heavier, and it flows under the bridge to the pond number 7. The flow is sufficient to avoid any backmixing, but it's slow enough not to mix with the water in the pond number 7 immediately. So we were taking samples, and the other thing that I would like you to notice is the color of the bottom of the crystallizers. It's green, up to the point when the gypsum starts crystallizing. The bottom of these ponds is green. Now here, this is the brine that flows in the pond number 10 with the gypsum crystallizing. These are gypsum eagles, or large crystals, very hard, and they are growing, and they also help to sequester the fissile pellets from Artemia. This is the concentration of the brine, about 11.96 degree, almost 12 degree Bohme, and here we are looking at the Artemia. So we are taking samples and looking into it. We can see only at the bottom of this picture, you can see the one Artemia. It's over there. No? It's over there. So this one, this is the Artemia. But relatively small concentration of Artemia, because the nutrients for the life in brine are continuously being consumed by the benthic community growing at the bottom of the ponds. Here we have the almost saturated brine, again being pumped by diesel pumps to the feed channel. And this is the outlet of the almost saturated brine to the feed channel. The channel is at the back of the picture, and then we drive along this channel, and on the right hand side here of the picture, here you can see already salt being crystallized from this transfer channel, from the feed channel. Here the saturated brine is entering the crystallizers, And again, it flows into the crystallizer with higher density, it spreads over the surface and further evaporates and drives the crystallization of the salt at the bottom. This is the concentration of the brine at 26 Beaumet at saturation. And this is how the saturated brine is pushed by the wind. It's very windy there. When the pond is prepared for the harvesting, the pittance is pumped away, again with a diesel-driven pump, to the next pond in the series, which is quite interesting, but I'm not going to talk about that here. This is the concentration of the pittance, and the harvesting itself is done in 3 stages. This is the grader that cuts the salt with a tool at the back and grades the salt with a tool in the middle. This is the cutting of the salt, and this is the grading of the salt. So the salt is put on a windrow, on a long heap. And here is the harvesting system with 3 dumpers, each holding 40 tons, with the harvester moving continuously and the trail moving, stopping. Here you can see it again in movement. The dumpers in the front and the harvesting machine at the back. From back to front, and now it starts moving again, and it's from front to back. Requires a good synchronization between the drivers of these both huge pieces of equipment. The salt is brought to a wash plant. Here the dumpers come on a ramp above the feeding hoppers of the washing lines, and here you can watch. Now it opens and the salt comes out. Within 3-4 seconds the dumper is empty. Very efficient. These machines are huge. The tires have a diameter of about 3 meters. Again, the dumper opens and the salt falls out within a few seconds. This is where the salt falls from the hoppers to the wash plant. In the wash plant there are some screw conveyors that pull the salt out of the brine. Then the salt falls on a wire mesh belt, is washed with water and with seawater, falls on a kind of screen to remove the largest particles of crystals, and is moved. There are 12 these washing lines, and the salt is moved either to the stockpile on the right hand side or directly to the barges in the end. This is the composition of the ESSA salt. The washing plant feed has a purity of 99.29%, The washed salt has a purity of 99.75%, and the salt that we have purified using our standard purification system. You can come after the presentation to me. I can show you the excellent quality of the salt. It's transparent, and you can read newspaper through it. The upgradability of the salt is 99.87%. Now, when we calculate the purification efficiency, which is the impurities actually removed, compared with the impurities that are removable, we can see that you can calculate that the efficiency of the washing plant is 78.8%. Here we have the operation of the stockpile. There's one point delivery, and the bulldozer spreads the salt over the surface. Here is the barging operation, salt delivered to barges, and from barges to an island, and in the island the salt is again stored and delivered to the large vessels across the Pacific, to Japan, to South Korea. So, why not turn your salt into gold? One more thing, please come to our display and pick up the golden coin. It's worth $4,600 today. So whoever requires anything from Salt Partners, we can supply, and if you give us this coin back, you are entitled to today $4,600 discount. Thank you very much for your